everyone. Thank you for tuning in to my channel tonight. Really appreciate it. Or thank you for tuning in to my channel, whether it's day or night. I guess I don't really know what time you're going to click on that YouTube link. But I do appreciate you taking the time to join me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about tires today. So tires are a big expense. Short of replacing your engine or transmission, I think the tires are probably the third biggest investment you'll make in the car and the life of the car, and especially the safety of the car. So the question always comes, do you spend a lot of money on tires? There's a lot of options out there. There's the really expensive ones, and then there's the middle of the road, and there's the value line. I'm going to give you a little bit of my own opinion from my own experience and what I do, and then we can go into talking about some facts. I did some research again online, and but we'll get into that. So I have, people say, hey Ed, what kind of tires you buy? Well, I'm not loyal to any one brand. I always look for the best deal, and the depending on how much money I want to spend, I look to get the best tire I possibly can for the money that I'm going to spend. Like most of you, right? I mean, we don't have money just falling out of our pockets here. So I'll give you an example. How I come to my decision on whether I'm going to spend a lot of money on a tire or I'm going to try to find the cheapest tire for the need that I have. So, you guys know I have a Corvette, I have Fieros. So, on my 92 Vet, it needed tires. When I bought the car, it had four different tires on it. Same rims, but, I had like a Firestone, a Pirelli, some Chinese brand that I don't recognize, and a Hankook on the other one. And they were all kind of close to being the same size, but there was variations. And the car handled like crap. It needed tires. It just, one of those things that I knew I had to invest in. Now, as you guys know from some of my other videos, if you've watched my other videos, I don't really take the Vet out much except on the weekends. I do a lake cruise. I don't drive aggressively with it. Maybe do a burnout here and there when I'm feeling safe and lucky. But for the most part, I'm just cruising around at or below the speed limit, like most of us old guys that drive Corvettes, right? So I cruise the lakefront on a Sunday. Chances are, if it's raining out, I'm probably not going to take it out, but I've gotten caught in the rain, and, obviously it's cool. I'm okay with it. I mean, the car sits outside in the summer. It only goes in the garage when I put it away for the winter. So I wasn't going to spend like on a Michelin or some high-end tire because, I mean, it would be overkill. I mean, the most those tires do is, 8 or 9 miles on a Sunday. Maybe we might take it to the Dells, to a car show up Wisconsin Dells, a couple hours away. But even then, I'm going to drive very cautiously. And of all of us that drive these older cars, our antennas tend to be up, so we're not as relaxed when we're driving our collector cars or our old cars. We're always kind of like waiting for something to go wrong. So most of us drive carefully, especially guys that are my age, in your 40s and 50s, 60s even. You're going to be a little bit more tame behind the wheel, more concerned about getting home in one piece than we are in showing everybody how powerful our cars are or how cool they are. We already know that. We got nothing to prove. So I chose to go with a value line on my Vet. Now, I wasn't going to sacrifice size or fitment, nothing like that, so I got the right size. But I was looking for tires. And I tell you, those babies on the back of that Corvette are really wide. They're like steamrollers back there. And they're really expensive. So I went, where do you think of getting cheap stuff? I went to Walmart. Walmart didn't have anything. Well, they had it in the high end, but it kind of took me to the Walmart marketplace, third-party dealers in the marketplace, and I found a set of Federals that I think I paid maybe $120 a piece for the Corvette, where everybody else was up around 200, 250. So I found these Federals for, I think they were around $100. I don't remember spending much over $400 for 4 tires. They were delivered for free next day. I even forgot the name of the third party that delivered them. And you know what? Those tires are excellent. Took them over to my buddy Robin, who owns Kenosha Towing. He gave me a nice price. He mounted them, put them on the car. Didn't, the wheels didn't take a lot of weight to balance them out. And that's usually a good sign of a decent tire, or a tire that was put together decently or manufactured correctly. Minimal weight to get them balanced out, and it's been 3 or 4 years, and I don't even think there's a mileage warranty on those tires. The tires work great. They decent traction in the wet. They do great in the dry, and I've had absolutely no issues with them. But I drive maybe 500 miles for the whole season that I have it out. The car doesn't really have to go through snow. And if I can avoid inclement weather, I will with the car, but I don't go out of my way. I mean, if I get caught in the rain, I'm not going to lose my mind. I don't really care. So, and rough roads, I don't care. Driving across a show field to go park the car at the car show, I don't care about any of that stuff. So tires are doing great. In fact, I'm probably not ever going to wear out the tread on those tires. Those tires will be replaced because the rubber has gotten so dry rotted that the rubber's falling off the carcass of the tire. I will not wear those tires out as far as wearing out the tread. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to get a really expensive tire. Tire meets minimum federal specifications. It's safe in the eyes of the government, and for what I paid for them, I'm okay with it. Then let's talk about my other car. I had to put new tires on our Ford Escape Titanium, and that's a car that I take into the office. If I'm not driving that, I'm driving my Fusion, but most of the time when the weather kind of stinks outside, I'm driving the Escape. And that car is on the highway. My office is in Chicago. It's almost downtown Chicago, right off the Kennedy Expressway. So when I'm driving, you guys know how it is on the tollway. For those of you that live around here, speed limit might be 70, but if you're not going 80, they're pushing you off the road, right? So you're driving 70, 80 miles an hour, and you want to make sure that you have a high-quality tire with a stiff sidewall, something that knows how to shed heat. When it's raining on the highway at those kind of speeds, you want to make sure that the tires are able to siphon the water out of the way and keep as much rubber contacted on the road. That's what you're going to get with a high-end tire. I would never put a cheap tire. I mean, unless I absolutely have to, but I probably wouldn't drive with traffic. I'd stay in the right lane. Plus that car carries my loved ones with us. We'll go out to dinner. We go somewhere on a trip. All those cars are going to have a high-end tire on it because we demand more from it. Higher speeds, things can go wrong awfully fast. So, depending on how you use the car is how you're going to decide what kind of tires you're going to buy. So, some of the things to consider in the research that I did: driving habits. High-end tires offer superior grip and performance, but budget options can be sufficient for casual driving. Kind of like what I was saying. I just do a little bit of cruising. My antennas are always up with the old car, so I'm always on and very focused. When I'm going to work, after work, I'm a little bit tired. Car kind of has some of that lane keeper stuff, so you're kind of a little bit more relaxed. You might not be as focused, so it's good to have those better tires on the car. Climate conditions, another consideration. Ensure the tire's performance aligns with the local weather, especially for wet or snowy conditions. Yeah, you're going to get an all-season or an all-weather on your daily driver, and you want it to be a good one. I mean, come on, you want to be safe, and we know that better tires are better. But on my Corvette, on my Fiero, a better tire is going to be overkill. It's just going to be overkill. I mean, those cars never really see the highway. They always do local cruising for the most part. The biggest trip they're going to take is I'm probably going to take a couple of my cars up to the Wisconsin Dells, to the Motorama, and then the Fiero show that's up there. But I'm going to be driving very cautiously. My cheap tires are going to be fine. We don't fool around when it comes to driving those old cars. There, it's better to be safe than sorry. So longevity versus cost. When considering a tire, high-end tires are going to last longer, absolutely, making their higher initial costs more worthwhile over time. So, if we put on our cars, my wife works in Illinois as well, we probably put about 30,000 miles a year on each car. We have 3 cars, but the 2 that we drive all the time, we put a lot of miles on them. So we're putting new tires on every couple of years, and we beat the heck out of them. Some of the sources that I use to gather the information I'm about to share with you, I went to the Michelin, Pirelli, Continental, Bridgestone, and Goodyear site. I also leveraged the knowledge base on Tire Rack, Discount Tire, and Simple Tire. I looked at some consumer reviews, and I looked at some comparison tests. There's independent companies out there that do comparison tests. I think it's a bunch of college kids looking to write essay papers, so they do all the research, which is fine. I mean, they put the time in and do the research, and we get to enjoy the benefit of that research. And then some forums that also had people commenting on their tires. Sometimes those reviews that people leave can be helpful. You at least can get the sentiment of what somebody thinks about the tire. Some of the research that I did, I'm kind of repeating myself, but just for clarity, some of the factors you're going to consider. Annual mileage. A high-end tire, not necessary if you're going to be driving low miles. And this is research that I did. I've just printed it out. Budget tires are more cost-effective if you're going to have low usage on them. Kind of like the example I gave you. Performance needs. High-end tire on a car that you're just cruising around town in is overkill. On a budget tire, adequate for casual Sunday drives. I mean, it's almost like they knew what I was thinking when I pulled this research. Cost, obviously, high-end tires are more expensive. Budget tires are significantly cheaper. And I'll give you an example of some of the comparison. Riding comfort, more expensive tires are better. They design in, quietness into the way the tread is. And sometimes they have, what do they call that when you have noise reduction, where a noise cancels out the other noise, and you have a very quiet tire because there's noise canceling features. You're not going to get that in a cheap tire. They're just not going to invest the time. You're going to get a lot of noise. If you get on the highway on a cheap tire, you're going to hear it. You're probably going to feel it. Nice new tires. I bought some Continental Pure Contact all-weather tires, and those things, for being as big and rugged as they are really quiet. It's a great tire. I mean, I think I spent maybe $1,800 on those tires. But I know that when my wife gets behind the wheel, I get behind the wheel, and I got a car full of people, I'm confident that the tires are going to do what we need them to do in every situation possible. You can slam on the brakes on that Escape with those tires, and that car's nose will dive down and stick to the road. I'm telling you, it is amazing, and you're not going to get that out of a cheaper tire, but you're not going to drive 70, 80 miles an hour. You're just not going to put yourself in those situations. And if you do, it'll probably be okay. But like I said, antennas are always up on those old cars. So you're always a little bit more cautious. Wet traction, obviously on a good tire, excellent. On a cheaper tire, it could be less effective. Not in all cases. Some of them do a nice job in the wet and the rain, designing the tire to pull the water away, out of the way. That's kind of, I think, over the last 20 years, design and using computer-enhanced design has really helped cheaper tires actually perform better, because they can design in the better performance, especially when it comes to moving water out of the way underneath the tread. Longevity, that's a no-brainer. Final recommendation, I think the research that I did kind of confirms what I say. Budget tires are practical, affordable choice depending on how you're going to use it. If you're going to get on that highway every day, taking your life into your own hands, I mean, invest in a better tire. So some of the tires that I had actually done a little bit of research on, some just to give you an example, and I'll post this on I'll post this on there. But like a high-end tire is a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, averages per tire about $200 to $300 a piece. An affordable alternative is a Hankook Ventus for $80 to $120 a piece. So similar, comparable performance. Maybe you're not going to get the mileage out of it, but you can find stuff in the more middle of the road that might not be high end, but it doesn't put such a strain on your budget. Pirelli P0s, great tire, great reputation. They average between $180 and $280 a tire, depending on the size and configuration that you're getting. A lower cost alternative would be the Falcon FK510, which is between $90 and $130. And it has similar performance features. Again, you're going to lose a little bit on the longevity. The rubber compound probably doesn't have as much silicone mixed in it. That usually raises the price of the tire. Continental Extreme Contact Sport. I think I have a version of this tire. They average between $190 and $270 a piece. I think mine were actually more. An affordable alternative is the General G-Max RS, which averages around $85 to $125 a piece. So you have options, which is great. That there's so much out there with that you can really pick a tire in your budget. But I really want you to understand what you're gaining and what you're losing. The better tire on your daily driver, and this is my opinion, I'm not telling you not to buy them or to buy them. Spend money on your daily driver, you get on the highway. If most of your cruising is around town and running to the store, the hardware store, to the bank, then I'd say you're good with a middle of the road or even a budget tire. So the last one I got here, the Goodyear Eagle F1 asymmetric, is about $250 a piece, depending on the size. The Kumo X-Dot would be its counterpart, $70 to $100 a piece. So you have options, but you are gonna lose a little bit of like I had mentioned before. Again, just for clarity, considerations, driving habits. High-end tires offer superior grip and performance, but budget options can be sufficient for casual driving. Climate conditions ensure that the tire's performance aligns with the local weather. Longevity versus cost. High-end tires may last longer, making their higher initial cost more worthwhile over time. And then consult a tire professional. If you're not sure about what you're doing, go see an expert, somebody that you trust. See if your friends recommend anybody. I know it's tough to trust. Trust is a hard thing to come by these days because everybody's just trying to make a buck. But if you have a friend or a relative that's had a great experience at a tire store or with a particular tire, consult with them and then see who they recommend. Just on some of the notes on the tires that I mentioned, like the Michelin Pilot Sport, renowned for exceptional handling on the wet and dry traction. The Hankook offers commendable performance at a much more accessible price point. The Pirelli P0 is designed for ultra-high performance with excellent grip. The Falcon tire that I mentioned provides similar performance characteristics for a little bit less. They're similar. They're not the same, so keep that in mind. But you can knock on the door of what the Pirelli's doing. You're just not going to be as good as the Pirelli. The Continental Extreme Contact Sport offers outstanding wet and dry performance. The General G-Max serves as a budget-friendly alternative with respectable capabilities. That's about as honest as you can get without saying, without getting into any more detail. A Bridgestone Potenza which I think is also the same as the Continental. Known for high-speed stability and cornering, and then there's a Sumitomo HTRZ, delivers comparable features at a reduced cost. So there's stuff out there. There's also a lot of resources. I'll post some of the resources in the body of this video or down in the comments. So if you're looking to buy a tire, buy new tires for your car, you know, if you want to do some of your own research before you go into the store, I always recommend that. Do the research before you head into the store. I also wanted to share with you, and sometimes we don't think of this. So, you know, we look at these tires, nice round tires and a beautiful tread on them. So, you see the back of my phone here? See the size of it? That's about as much tire that's going to touch the ground. There's about a 3x5 or a 3x6 or a 4x8 patch. That's all that's keeping you attached to that road between you and the tire, is just about a patch about that big, average. I mean, unless you got some big old wide tires like on my Vet, but on average, the size of this phone is all that's touching the ground. So keep that in mind when you're going 80, 90 miles an hour. The only thing that's keeping you on that road is 4 patches about this big that's actually touching the road. So you want to make sure that when you're driving aggressively like that, that you have a decent tire between you and the road, because there's not much holding you on. There really isn't. So that's a lot of work for any kind of tire at that kind of speed, especially on our road. Our roads are not racetracks. They're built to get us from point A to point B. There's nothing special, or they don't use any special compounds. The new concrete stuff is grooved, I think, to help get the water out of the way. But remember, that's all that's touching the ground. So please consider that when you're buying your tires. So for some of us who buy old cars, like me, I buy old rescues. I try to not make sure that they don't get crushed, like I did with my Fiero. Something that you might want to consider, and for those of us that go and buy a tire, is, do you know how to read the date code on a tire? So a date code on the tire, they all have to have it, and that's basically it's born on date. And so you look for the number. Always starts with the DOT, Department of Transportation, starts the string of numbers on the sidewall. If you identify the first 2 to 3 letter or numbers, this represents the factory code. An example, IC stands for USA, 6B is Mexico, VE is France, Y2 is China. And there's a list, and I'll put a link. There's a list of all the countries. I mean, a lot of the tires that I buy, when I look up the manufacturing location, a lot of them are coming out of Thailand. Maybe they have a lot of rubber trees there. I don't know, but I see a lot of them out of Thailand. So you wanna, if you're interested in that, you want to know where your tire is made. I mean, for me, it's not going to stop me from buying it. If it meets all the requirements that I need and it's got the stamp of approval from the federal government, I don't care if it's made on the moon. I'm going to probably buy it. And good luck finding an American-made tire. There's probably not a lot out there. Maybe the high-end stuff made in the United States or made in Germany, like when it comes to like Michelin, it might be made in Germany. So the born-on date. Let's get back to the born-on date. So I told you about the country. Now the born-on date is after the string of DOT and the manufacturer code. Then you have the 2 digits that represent the week of the year, and then you have the 2 digits that recommend the year that it was manufactured. An example, if you have a date code 1823, That means the tire was made in the 18th week of the year in 2023. It's that easy. And then you might ask, well, Ed, when's a tire too old? So look, you get to the 6 to 10 year mark, you need to consider replacing the tire. So if you buy a car and it's got a 6-year-old tire on it, do I say that you have to replace it? No. One thing I would do is inspect it for cracks on the sidewall and between the tread. You know, turn your front wheel, look at the between the tread and see if there's any cracks in the rubber. If there's cracks in the rubber between the tread, or that sidewall looks cracked, 6 years old, 7 years old, look, you wanna replace those tires. They're just dangerous to drive on. I can tell you, I bought an old car. I think I bought an old Sebring convertible because I really wanted a convertible. Guy gave me a great deal on this Sebring and ran good. And on the way home from Waukesha, I bought it up in Waukesha, which is about 50 miles away from my house here in Kenosha. I bought it up in Waukesha. About halfway home, the tread just blew off of it. There was no, and I drove home. The tire didn't go flat. I drove home on the carcass itself. It's like it just separated. I've never seen anything like it. It was just the rubber was so dry, it just kind of blew off of it. So if the tire is, again, between 6 and 10 years old, and upon inspection you see cracks, look, there's nothing you can do to save that tire. You gotta replace it. If the tire, again, is between 6 and 10 years old and you inspect it and there's no cracks, you're probably going to be okay, but you need to start thinking about replacing it. And I would keep a closer eye, maybe every couple of months, just take a look at it. If you know the tires are old, you're not ready to replace them yet, just keep an eye on it. Once you start getting the cracks between the tread, yeah, that's pretty much the end of the line. So, all right, and actually, and there's one more thing I wanted to talk about too when it comes to buying tires. I've been hearing some talk about people who drive Teslas; their tires are just wearing out prematurely. So I think what's actually happening is that people have their Teslas, they wear out the tires. They put 50, 60, and the cars are getting older. I see them on the highway all the time, so people are putting miles on their electric vehicles. They go and replace the tires. Well, they go and replace the tires with the best deal they can find, or they put budget tires on there. Well, guess what? Budget tires are not EV rated, so there is such a thing as a car tire is EV rated or rated for a high load. So if you got an all-electric vehicle, those batteries are heavy. The car puts a lot more weight on the road. It's not just the weight, though. Those electric motors really transfer a lot of torque instantly. So the sidewalls on those tires are really being stretched, right? You got good traction, the power's going through the rim, and it's just kind of twisting, that constant twisting action on those tires because of the way the torque is being delivered to the wheels. It puts a lot of stress on a tire. So you're going to have a little bit more of a heavy-duty tire. So there is an EV rating on the tire. And each company kind of has their own version of an EV rated. And it doesn't have to be a tire that's specifically made for EVs. It just needs to have that EV rating on it. I can tell you right now, some of those budget tires that are single-ply sidewall are not EV rated, and those things are going to shred. You buy a 40,000 mile or a 50,000 mile tire and you put it on an EV and it's a budget tire. Again, nothing wrong with budget tires. My parking lot is full of budget tires on those old cars, but you put it on an EV, yeah, you're going to have some problems, and you're not going to be happy, because in about a year those tires are going to be like, the car's not riding right, it's going to have a mushy steering wheel because that sidewall is absolutely beat to hell. Even if you have a little bit of tread left on them, the problem comes in with those sidewalls. The car is just going to feel terrible. So you look for the special branding for the EV. Michelin, it simply says EV or acoustic technology. On Pirelli, it says elect, E-L-E-C-T, probably short for electric. Continental, it says EV compatible. So you buy a Continental tires, if it says EV compatible, it's not just for EVs, it's for everybody, but it'll also work on an EV. So they've considered the fact that there's going to be extra weight. Load rating, you want to look for XL. It says extra load. Also, LRR is another code. They're eco-friendly tires that have a low rolling resistance. Also very important on electric vehicles. Noise reduction features, Michelin, acoustic, Goodyear silent drive. Those are also tires that has that branding. They're probably okay for EV. And that's a lot of information in about 20 minutes worth of a video. So I hope that helps. I'll put as much of the resources in on the in the body of the video. I hope you guys like today's content. I would appreciate if you took the time to like and subscribe my channel. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.